All right, we're back. Missed you guys Monday. Hopefully, your week is off to a good start. You guys are out there crushing it and chasing whatever you guys are going after with all of your tenacity, and you're revved up and ready for the rest of the week here. Man, so many things have changed since I saw you guys last. We'll get into all of that tonight, I'm sure. So one of the main things, we've got the CFTC and the SEC that have teamed up to expedite the ability for people to launch ETFs here in the US and streamline that process. So basically what that means is if an ETF that is proposed or filed meets a specified criteria, it would basically just get approved and be launched and up and ready and going. There's some other constraints that I think they're going to put on ETFs come 2026. Right now, the stigma, I guess that's not the right word, but kind of the prerequisite that things have to go through requires that futures be around for at least 6 months before things are going to get passed. So what does that mean? Well, Bitcoin futures launched in 2017. Actually, it was actually like January. Actually, it was December 2017, and that was the top of the market back then. So people were then able to short Bitcoin and cause the fall that we saw back then, and the bear market until we get to 2020. So futures for Bitcoin have been around a long time on the CME, and then you had Ethereum come along a little bit later on, and that's why those two ETFs have been approved here in the US and have so much traction. Both of their futures markets have been around a long time. We got futures markets for Litecoin, Hedera, XRP, and what's the other? Doge. There's some other ones that have been put out and put forth by different people, depending on who the issuer was. But a lot of those are going to be around 6 months here next month in October. So early Q4, which also lines up with the Clarity Act, looking like it's going to get passed through. Again, bipartisan approval and a lot of momentum behind regulation around this asset class. So maybe, I know a lot of people are bullish. I am too on the end of the year here. I do think we get, a rally here at the end of Q3 and all the way in through Q4 for a lot of the digital assets that people are invested in. Many of which you're watching. If you are watching, you probably own. I don't know that we have a ton more in Bitcoin. I was talking to a gentleman that, we've actually had a lot of people reach out here recently that are not quite family office level, but have pretty significant net worth, somewhere north of 5 to 10 million. And even just their allocation to digital assets, their crypto allocation, and they're diversified across, most of the time they do have an allocation to Bitcoin in there, a little bit ETH, and then a lot of XRP. And again, my content in particular tends to lean that direction. So it tends to be the people that we have contact us. Thank you, babe. My wife, she's wonderful with the tea.
That's how they hold it up so they know that I'm real.
There you go. The weird cup. She said she was going to give it to you. Whoever she was talking to that said she was going to give me the weird cup. People think the responses on social media are AI. It's either me or my wife. That's who handles the responses. So if you're being mean, quit it. She's a nice lady most of the time. So anyway, yeah, I don't know that we're going to get a whole lot more here in Bitcoin this cycle. Maybe another 10-20% to the upside. You got some things happening that make it look toppy. When I say toppy, I mean, pretty close to the top is kind of my vernacular for that. My ebonics for close to the top is toppy. Not topper, like over there at Uphold. So, a lot of people I think are de-risking here. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Grant Cardone has his home in, I don't know if it's Florida, under contract, selling it in Bitcoin. Him and Gary obviously are on the Bitcoin train. He's got an allocation for Bitcoin off of the cash flows and his properties. which I think is actually a really interesting play when it comes to how to structure a fund and hedge against fiat currency, right? Like if you are getting cash flows off of multifamily properties and you're putting them in something else aside from just cash to be able to maintain that value or grow it. I think it's an interesting value proposition. I don't necessarily like it for Bitcoin. I think that there's some better opportunities than that out there. But as just, a hedge against fiat currency, sure. I think that that's probably a good way to go about it. But anyway, he's liquidating that property here close to the top of the market, in my opinion, for Bitcoin. And I'm sure that there's other people that are happy to, make that swap here. They feel like it's a good value. So as long as both parties are happy with the outcome there, then it's a good transaction, right? But there's some other things just kind of looming in the market here. I don't know if you guys have been watching, but we do have the 10-year yield over there in Japan above 1.6, and it's holding above 1.6. And the Bank of Japan is continuing to provide liquidity. Not enough. They're just barely enough to hold things together over there in Japan and not let rates run wild. The yen is starting to depreciate against the dollar, not significantly, but we're like 148 instead of 147. So, moving away, the dollar is appreciating against the yen. The danger zones on that, if you guys are looking at the chart, the yen versus the USD, around 160, they've guarded that pretty heavily, and then also 140. And what that means is how much yen, per $1. So it's either 140 yen for $1 or 160 yen for $1. If it's 140, it's appreciating against the dollar, and that causes people to get scared and want to liquidate their positions and convert that back, because you kind of have a twofold scenario there with the reverse carry trade when it unwinds. You got one, the conversion rate, which is FX market, what I'm talking about there between the yen and the USD, and you got interest rates climbing. So if you had a variable rate loan, you could be kind of double impacted on that. And a lot of people just borrowed however they could borrow because it's free money. What does it matter? If you can get free money from the Bank of Japan, you really don't care, what the terms are on it, as long as the interest rate is zero or pretty close to it. And you can take that money and go somewhere else with it. But that's what this is. It's a global margin call, basically, where yields will move substantially higher there in Japan. And you're going to see mass liquidation across all markets when that occurs. And you've got the Fed, or not hawkish, dovish here, looking like they are going to lower interest rates. I don't know how aggressively they're going to lower. If it's too aggressive, that could definitely cause the reverse carry trade to unwind. And Japan also raising interest rates likely here in September, which would also cause it to be unwound. So I don't think either one of them want to be the bad guy. And if you had a systemic event, maybe to do with oil, that caused things to happen, and it wasn't either of their faults, as just kind of optics go, then I think that's probably the way that it'll happen. And again, I've been saying that for a while. Been watching oil starting to creep up. We haven't seen a big move, but that's what we're waiting for a large move in the yen or not in the yen, but in oil to the upside, priced in yen. And then that would cause, significant inflation there in Japan and cause them to rapidly have to raise interest rates, which they've left stable for the last year and haven't touched. I really didn't think that they could hang on as long as they have, but they're really at the end of the rope here, both the Fed and the Bank of Japan. Interestingly enough, Bank of England had one of their individuals there say that they're concerned about the Fed earlier today. What about the Fed? Not sure. Your guess is as good as mine, but for them to be concerned is concerning to me. Bank of England normally has their finger on the pulse of stuff, and obviously they were all just together there in Jackson Hole when Jerome spoke earlier. Well, actually not earlier this month, but back in August there toward the end, same week we were there for SALT. So a lot of things, continue to push forward here. Still very bullish, like I said earlier, on appreciation for a lot of these assets and a lot of these scenarios that we've talked about at length with the reverse carry trade and tether and all of that to unwind here at the end of 2025, causing some massive price appreciation for certain assets that I know you guys hold, like, and love. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the comments and questions here. Appreciate you guys taking time out on a Monday night. If you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, and share this with somebody you think would find it valuable over here on TikTok, X, and YouTube. We got Rob, Big Rob. What's going on, brother? He says, appreciate you for the super chat. Welcome back. Is there a standard time frame for a bank application, or is there a projected date when Ripple's application could be approved? Rumor on the street is November. It's what I'm hearing. I would think that they would need to finalize the acquisition with Hidden Road before that would be approved. There's not, well, I mean, it could happen before then. There's never been a time when a prime broker was owned by anybody but a bank. So for them to, make that acquisition, what people don't realize when they make these announcements is there's still odds and ends that need to be tied up, especially for financial businesses here in the US. There's a transition of control. There's a bunch of things, especially when it's a broker dealer, anything licensed by FINRA or, has purview of the SEC and other regulatory bodies. There's a transition period, and a lot of things need to be filed and amended. New management, different things have to be moved in, and it's not a clean, easy process where you just swap things over. It does require a lot of lift. You're gonna have to pay attorneys and other people to make sure it's done correctly. And there is a time horizon. So most of the time, a broker dealer change of control takes like 6 months here in the US. So I kind of anticipate the Hidden Road deal being something similar. I don't remember when that actually was announced. Let me take a look here. Hidden Road acquisition. It was April 8th. So again, about 6 months would put you smack dab in the middle of October. Same spot for the ETFs, same spot for the Clarity Act. So many things lining up for October here. So, could be before that, could be right after that, but I do anticipate before the end of the year, Rob. We've got Chosen One Collecting says, bro, I just want to hit $4. I'm assuming you're talking about XRP. Here's the deal. They need this move that's going to happen next to be all at once. If it really is going to be utility-driven bull run, okay? I know people are antsy. They just want to see some price appreciation. Maybe they bought in January this year and it's been trending sideways all year long. You already bought at the top and now you're like back to even. And you're like, what the hell? I was supposed to be rich in a month, Excuse my French, but a lot of people have been here for years, like a long time. Again, I talk with people pretty regularly. They reach out that when they do have a larger allocation, and many of these people have been here since 2017, 2018, 2019, and they continued to dollar cost average during the bear market and just know that it was going to work out. Have faith, believe in something, and that's difficult to do if you've never had patience for an extended period of time before. I haven't talked about this much on here, but I'm sure you guys have heard of the marshmallow test. Surely. What they do is they gave children a marshmallow, put it on a table in front of them. And they said, if you don't eat the marshmallow for 15 minutes, we will come back and give you a second marshmallow, and you get both marshmallows. They followed the children that they put through that study over their lifetime, and the children that were able to wait the 15 minutes and get the second marshmallow were exponentially more likely to be successful than the children that just immediately ate the marshmallow. So when you're able to defer gratification or forego things in the short term to get a better outcome over the long term, almost inevitably, you're going to be more successful with things. It requires patience. So if you're frustrated, I understand. Many of us were frustrated for years. with it hanging out at 30 cents and 50 cents and 40 cents during the lawsuit. We would get up to like 90 cents and then it would pull back and never even got over $1. And here we are at $3, and now people are complaining we hadn't hit 4. So just perspective, you know, again, shifting paradigm. I think so many people are going to come into so much money on the other side of this. And if you haven't built the skills, traits, and beliefs required, what's Jim Rohn say? He says, if you get $1 million, best you become a millionaire. Otherwise, you will lose it. There are certain skills, traits, and beliefs that somebody tends to acquire in the pursuit of achieving $1 million net worth or becoming a millionaire that allow them to keep it or even continue to grow it over time. And so I know it can be frustrating, you know, having to deal with waiting and having faith, and like, this is the easiest $1 million you're ever going to make, in my opinion. Most people have to toil and fail and go bankrupt. Most multimillionaires have gone bankrupt at least twice. Rolling the dice on things, just so you guys know, like, it's not a normal thing to, you know, be in that upper echelon. I know a lot of people have that net worth today because, you know, they've been around, again, time in the market. If you've owned real estate for the last 30 years, if you've owned stocks for the last 30 years, and you've just been consistent, you know, the Dave Ramsey method, you'll get there, right? I'd prefer it to be a little bit faster than that. That's why we're in crypto. So I'll get off my soapbox and hop in the next one. Here we got Off the Grid Hero. What's going on, brother? He says, your opinion on 2027, 2030, the everything crash, houses, what year would you wait till big purchase after XRP moons? I don't think we're going to get that, my man. I am very different than other people in my outlook on things. I think when the reverse carry trade unwinds, it's going to take all the leverage out of the market. I think that you're going to see 50% down across all markets. It's going to reset everything hard, similar to what COVID did. But the difference on this one is you're going to have the advent of AI and blockchain and all of these other progressive technologies that get rolled out in tandem. And the deflationary growth that we're going to see across economies with the addition of these technologies, you're going to have real GDP. You're not going to have to fake it. You're not going to have to print money and like incentivize people to spend it. People are going to have more time on their hands. They're going to be more creative. They're going to be able to get stuff done faster than they ever have before if they're leveraging AI. And then you've got, you know, blockchain and smart contracts and all of these other things, again, to create additional efficiencies and transactions and remove frictions in markets. There's going to be so much progressive tech that rolls out over the next decade. I don't see how you can't just have a raging bull market for the next 10 to 20 years. With real growth in the economy, job creation. I know a lot of people are concerned about AI taking your jobs. There's going to be more jobs created with AI than even the internet, right? A lot of people are concerned about the internet taking people's jobs. You're still going to have, you know, hard labor. There's always going to be trade work. It's difficult to replace that. There's just so much nuance and intricacy. We have a huge shortage in people that are doing those jobs. Most of that, there's an aging population that's 40 or over. There's not a whole lot of new journeymen and other people that are looking to get into those professions, and they pay well if you're doing them. But I don't think that we're going to have an everything crash in 2027 to 2030. I think the big crash is this year with the reverse carry trade, and then we're up and to the right after that. And I'm just a guy. I watch a lot of people in macroeconomics that are a lot smarter than me, and then I, cobble together what I think are the best pieces within that, and that's how I come to my conclusions. We got Harley F250 guy. What are your current top 5 cryptos for long-term ROI besides XRP? Appreciate everything that you do. Mastermind member. Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for being in the Mastermind. If you guys want to join the Mastermind for $2, like, I know I'm biased, but just go ask some people if they think it's worth the money. I'm going to say not everybody, but probably 85 or 90% of the people that have ever joined the Mastermind are still there. And it's month to month. There's no contract, super easy. Get into the Discord, get tons of value. We actually have something else that's going to be coming out in the near future that I think a lot of people are going to be clamoring for, because you're going to get some assurances that you don't have otherwise if you're not a member. So would love to have you in there. All you need to do is go to beyondbroke.com, and you can use the code right up here at the top. It is beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar gets you a first month for $2, either Carbon One or Social. And again, get access to a lot more stuff than we do here on the lives, even though we give you guys a lot on the lives. So back to the ROI and the top 5 for ROI besides XRP. HBAR would be in there, XLM would be in there, XDC would be in there. So that's 3. And then the other ones, I don't know that I'm going to be able to guess the other ones. I think there's going to be some things out of left field. Hash is another one. That one's like a penny or 2 pennies right now that I think could go to $100 over the long term. It's the coin on provenance. And I'm going to say, what for number 5? Again, there's probably something that's going to be around that nobody's even looking at. Electronium's interesting. You got Bank Socials token with credit unions. It's probably something outside the finance sector in another large swath. Whatever token wins out for DPIN. I don't know if you guys know what that is or not. So there's IFPS, which is Interplanetary File Storage System. That's what was brought forth on Filecoin's network back in the day. It's a little clunky though. You can't access that data real time. And so DPIN, which I don't know what that stands for, DEPIN, is basically kind of like a hot wallet for data, but it still has security and assurances. So you're able to access that data almost real time, but it's still secured in a way that's very difficult to hack or breach. So I think whatever token wins out for DPIN is probably going to be whatever gets 80% of that market. I think will be very valuable. It's not something I keep a ton of, pay a ton of attention to. We also, if you guys didn't see this, I kind of alluded to it a couple times over there on Twitter. We got the announcement for the Ton DAT today over there at Yahoo Finance. Alpha Ton is the company that will be accumulating a Ton treasury. So that's the Telegram token. There's one guy that keeps haggling me over there on X, trying to get me to give a price prediction for Ton. I don't really care about Ton. It's a top 20 token at this point. It's used for payments within Telegram. Obviously, there's a lot of people that use that application globally, especially if you're in crypto. Almost every conference that I go to, people are asking me, what's your Telegram? And I'm like, guess I got to get this thing. I don't really use it, or WhatsApp. I just text people most of the time. I find that to be the most efficient way for people to just answer their text messages. But there are a lot of people that have adopted that and use it. So we'll see how that works out for them. Excited for them over there in that announcement. Have known about that for a little bit because we met them at SALT, but super excited for them. And I think you're going to see more and more of those treasury companies pop up here. We got Adrenaline. Will, he says, legend. What's up, man? Legend of legends. Do you think the 1K price pump from Liquidity Crunch will only be temporary and XRP Escrow will be used to normalize the price? I think it'll be used to maintain price stability there. Like, that's the whole point of the escrow. So they have continued to re-escrow close to 700 million XRP on the back end of that almost every month when they've got that release. So 300 million comes onto the market. Went back and forth with a guy over there on Twitter. He takes really good information from the wallets and figures out, how much XRP is actually in retail's hands. Based on the numbers that I've got from exchanges, in conversations that we've had with them, and the amount of XRP that obviously we manage, and then I think is out there for retail. I think the total amount in retail's hands is close to 2.5 billion, maybe a bit less than that, 2.3 billion, which is 2.3% of the total supply, almost nothing in comparison to 100 billion, which is held by institutions and Ripple and early investors and whales, and not just whales. Like, I know a lot of whales. What I would hear, people always ask me this. They're like, what do you consider a whale? I consider a whale somebody that can move a market if they decided to sell or buy. Okay. These people out here that say, like, I got 100,000 XRP and I'm a whale, that's a large amount of XRP. Don't get me wrong, but you're not a whale. The whales that I know have like 40 or 50 million XRP. Okay. Like, that's a whale in my book. Like, if they decided to sell tomorrow, that would impact markets. And that's my definition of a whale, is like when it breaches the surface and, splashes, it moves things. It's not just, pokes its head over the water type deal. So, but anyway, back to your question here. I do think that they will use the liquidity provision or the treasury, or, whatever you want to call what Ripple has, the escrow, and the release there to maintain stability across markets above, $1,000 or $2,000 a token. And they'll have to release much less of it in order to maintain that price stability, unless there's even more demand than I realize, which could be, the case. This guy says, if you start having doubts, will you tell us? Blake, you may be new here, over here on TikTok, and I appreciate the question. Again, I'm just a guy, and I should probably give my disclaimer here. Anything I say here, entertainment, educational purposes only. This is not financial advice. I'll tell you guys what I'm doing. Whatever you do is on you. Everybody's a big boy here. They make their own decisions, or big girl, right? You don't need my conviction. You shouldn't need my conviction to make an allocation to something or hold on to something. If you've done the research, if you understand the asset and where it's going and what it's going to be doing, then you should have no problem holding it, and you don't need my conviction on a regular basis. I do come on here and provide it because people do find it valuable, and I appreciate that, and I get a lot of fulfillment from getting on here and having the conversation. But at the end of the day, the reason that my conviction doesn't falter is, and I've said this before, I've had the privilege and been blessed with the ability and opportunity to have conversations with people that I don't have any doubts. I have the most conviction that you could have around something after the conversations I've had. So you take that for what it's worth. Some of those I can't talk about. But the way I present it is, I feel like an Indian on the campground, and there's a big teepee, and some of the shamans come out and they talk to me every once in a while. And I glean little nuggets from all the different shamans. And that's what gives me the conviction. There hasn't been like one that's been like shook me and told me this is what's going to happen. But across an amalgamation of 15 separate conversations with 3-letter agencies and corporate executives and other people at large banks and MasterCard and many others, there's been a lot of visceral reactions when I mentioned XRP, and there's also been specific things that were stated in those conversations. And across all of them, that's what gives me the confidence to come on here and talk about it the way that I do. We got President Nick. What's up, man? He says, Jake, my man, my guy, with the JP lowering in rates this month, is it likely that the reverse carry trade will go into full effect as the domino theory video number 3? We have the 3rd video, my man. Go check it out. It's on the YouTube channel. Yeah, it's been up for a little while. I asked people if they wanted that a little while back, and they said yes. So we made it. But Japan's going to raise interest rates is what's going to cause reverse carry trade to unwind. But yeah, they're right here on the cusp of it. We need a 10% move. That's all we need. That's going to be enough to scare people out of their positions, start liquidating stuff, and then it'll snowball. It'll be like a bank run. It's really what it ends up being. You only need momentum to get it going down the hill, and then everybody else gets scared and they also run down the hill, and it all just snowballs on top of itself. It's going to be scary when this happens. Other people are going to freak out. You guys that are watching this know what's going on. The people around you that are going to see markets tank are going to lose their minds. They are going to be like, what is going on? I thought they were lowering interest rates and we were going to the moon and everything's burning to the ground. What happened? And you're just going to be like, yeah, it's a reverse carry trade. So you're going to know while everybody else is freaking out. Work hard, play hard. I love that, dude. Thank you for the super chat. They say, we got Off the Grid Hero says, SIFI moves most realistic to happen. XRP Moon it. Not sure what SIFI is, but Moon it. I'm with you, man. We got Honest Aim. How are you, sir? Appreciate the super chat. He says, legend. Thanks for all that you do for the little guys. Hi to the tea lady. See Uncle Warren drop $1 billion on Leonard and DR Horton. What's your take? Love the mastermind. Worth every penny. Blessings. Thank you, man. Appreciate you for being part of. There's some people that are OGs that have been in here a long time and have gotten extreme amount of value from the mastermind. I'll say this. Anytime I've leaned into a community, I've always gotten way more than what I paid for. And I try to make the threshold super low. I want people to feel like, wow, I want to pay more for this because of the value I'm getting. I always want people to feel that way. Because there's been a few times that I've joined a mastermind and I'm like, this is it. This is what I paid all this money for. But I always met people and always networked. And over the long term, all of those memberships or associations have all paid off in huge dividends in spades. But sometimes in the short term, you're like, this is what it was. So, I never want people to feel that way. We're always asking for constructive criticism, for people to, give us feedback, and anything that we can do to add additional value to the mastermind. We've continued to accrue that over time. So we run private deals in there. We have an insurance option for people. It's a health share plan for members of the mastermind where you can get, lower cost health insurance or healthcare plan. I can't call it insurance. We also have something that we're going to roll out here for kind of an insurance on your crypto. So keep your ear to the ground for that. We've got just a lot of stuff going on in there. Oh, we have the ability to borrow against your XRP, exclusive agreements in there to be able to do that, which you're not going to get anywhere else. And then, there's a ton of education, business resources. We do the town halls in there. We have in real life events. We got an in real life event on the 19th of this month here in Dallas. So excited for that. I think this is going to be a bigger one. I've had a lot of people. I met a guy who was on the airplane last night. It's so crazy. Like, I feel like I'm in this perfect spot. And I was telling somebody else this the other day. Like, you guys kind of know who I am, right? I come on here and I get on my lives and watch. And if you saw me out in public, you'd say hi, but the average person in public has no idea who I am, which I love. I can go anywhere, do anything, but the people that I want to know me know who I am. So it's like the perfect level of, it's very cool. And so anyway, guy on the plane last night, I get up to go to the bathroom and he's like, are you Jake? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I'm in your mastermind, man. Appreciate you. So shout out to you. I didn't get your name, but appreciate you. Looking forward to seeing you guys at the event here in Dallas on the 19th. But anyway, if that sounds cool to you, if you'd like to be a part of a community that does in real life events and has all those other amenities and benefits, again, you can just go to beyondbroke.com, use the code, it's on this side, beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you the first month for $2. If you don't like it, cancel anytime, month to month. No big deal. So back to DR Horton, Lennar and DR Horton. If old Uncle Warren is deploying some capital. That's interesting. It's not a lot. $1 billion sounds like a lot, and it is to most people. But old Uncle Warren's got almost 400 billion on the sidelines in treasuries and other assets, waiting for this large pullback that he knows is going to come into the market. I think you could also see, and this would be interesting, and I don't know that anybody else has said this. What if you saw Berkshire issue a stable coin? This person says, how do I join the mastermind? Just go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO for social membership or carbon 1. So that's beyondbroke.com. But if he's starting to deploy capital, maybe he's seeing some opportunities in the markets here. And I think we're close. Again, before the end of the year here, I do think we're going to see a big move to the downside across markets. And that's when, there's blood in the streets. That's when sharks eat. And that's what Uncle Warren is. He is a shark. As big a shark as they come. He will come in and buy up all the deals. So if you're looking for good positions on the other side of, everything falling apart for the reverse carry trade, you're not going to get to see what Warren buys until the quarterly report after. But even if you took those positions after you're able to learn about where he positioned himself, I anticipate that those will continue to go up and to the right again, because I think we're going to move into a bull market for the next decade after this pullback. So kind of like, Nancy Pelosi watching her stock picks. If you mirror those, you're doing pretty good. We got Wamblin. They say, hey, Jake, reading up on Project Ion, DTCC and R3 Corda. Most mention XDC and not XRP for project. What's your take? Should XDC be in your bag? We actually had a call earlier today and had a long conversation about XDC with somebody that, I can't even say that because then it's going to give it away. Somebody that creates financial products around digital assets. So yeah, we love XDC. I think that there's going to be a lot of upside there. I actually was just on a panel with Ritesh up there, who's a co-founder, him and Atul, for XDC Network out of Dubai. He was here, and I chatted with him for Crypto Mondays up there in New York, and then we went to dinner with the foundation. So Ken Chapman, he's been a champion for us, and he's been at our Digital Asset Summit events speaking. He's their liaison and BD here in America, trying to get them listed on exchanges and successfully doing it. Got them in over there at Kraken, and there's many other conversations that I think are going to be had and likely will bear fruit for them, which is exciting to see. And they're actually establishing a presence in New York. They bought an office. So I understand XDC at length. Okay. And to your question here, should it be in your bag? Sure. I think that it has a lot of upside. In comparison to XRP, nowhere close. We worked with R3. I don't have my coffee cup here tonight. When we originally had conversations with them, and I've shared this in the mastermind lots of times, like I said, I always try to provide a ton of value there for them. They're going to know way more than anybody else about what's actually going on in the industry. Again, super blessed to be able to travel and be in these rooms and have conversations with people like Brad Garlinghouse and people that are on that level, like that were there at SALT. And again, it's because we're actually providing value and building things in the ecosystem that we're able to connect with these people and work with them. But in that conversation with R3, I still have an NDA with them, so I can't talk about what we built, but I can talk about, some of the questions we asked. And when we originally started working with them, I said, which network should we try to make this interoperable with, and which one should we settle through? And they said, well, it's got to be legally compliant here in the US, and there has to be enough liquidity in it. And I was like, so not XDC. And they went, and I was like, well, the only thing that's not a security because of the lawsuit is XRP. And they were like, seems like a good choice. So I don't know if that tells you anything, but the banks, the institutions, R3's clients, the DTCC, none of them are going to use anything that doesn't have regulatory clarity. And if we were to get things moving here before the Clarity Act were to take place, there's only 2 assets that have legal clarity here in the US. One's Bitcoin and the other's XRP. So take that with a grain of salt. Again, just a guy here on the internet, but I'd rather take it from the horse's mouth. Chomp. Appreciate you on the super chat. They say, Jake the Snake. Whispers say Elon's X payment may tap XRP and even Meta could dive in. NDA walls aside, what can you reveal on these and other big moves? Feels like you're sitting on some jackpot secrets. I'll say this. There's some other payment providers that we work with and know well that are leveraging Ripple payments in different applications. There's a leader there. Anytime there's going to be back-end wholesale settlement, but large value payments, it's going to be XRP, in my opinion. And that's why I'm positioned where I am. I don't own anything else. And I know about a ton of these projects, right? Like we talk, I've got I wore my, what was it? My muscle shirt on here, or my tank top, my Axelar tank top, and people gave me hell about that. It's not professional. All right, well, I like my Axelar tank top and I wanted to wear it. So, we know all these guys. We know Ondo. We know, like I talked to all of them. I talked to Proppy, VeChain, and I still only own XRP. If I'm bullish on HBAR and XLM and all of these other tokens, but I still only own XRP, I don't know about you guys. Again, I can't give you financial advice. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. So when it comes to payments at scale, if there's banking licenses involved, it's XRP, in my opinion. And again, just my opinion. If it's peer-to-peer merchant services, Hyperledger Bosu. We've talked with Bain. We've talked with many other large people in the market that are implementing blockchain solutions into corporations and other merchant service providers. Hyperledger is a big deal. And so again, you asked me for my top 5. That's why XLM is in that group as well. We got Travis Genix. Probably butchered that. I apologize. I said, Jake, what's the chances XRP ETFs don't get approved in October? And I'm interested in sharing a company in the US and starting a company in the US. I want it US-wide help. Thanks. Excuse me. Don't get approved in October. Well, since you said that month specifically, I think they could be approved here in September. So, if between the 2 months, pretty confident that that's going to happen, like a 99.99999% chance. So I'm not really going to entertain this question. Starting a company in the US, though, it sounds like maybe you're international. I would start by getting a TIN. So you need a tax identification number. Once you have that, you can establish a corporation here in the US. I would use a registered agent in order to establish it in the best jurisdiction for whatever you're trying to accomplish. Many people establish a presence in Delaware because of the corporate law there. And there's just so much case law and ways that transactions have happened around corporate law in Delaware. It's a little more expensive to maintain a corporation in Delaware, and you get a lot of the same benefits, and case law applies to Wyoming LLCs. That's why another reason that we established up there versus Delaware. Nevada also provides you a lot of really good protections and benefits versus other states. So does South Dakota. So, one of those 4 states would probably be my recommendation for, where you're going to establish a presence if you wanted to operate across the US. And then, again, depending on the type of business that you're doing, you might want to incorporate somewhere else. There are specific niche, circumstances in which you'd want to incorporate somewhere else. You also want to think about if you're establishing a C Corp, an S Corp, an LLC, or a limited partnership. All of those have different drawbacks, pros and cons. that I would sort through. I would work with a corporate attorney to get that structured the right way, or do a lot of research yourself, because sometimes corporate attorneys, not sometimes, always corporate attorneys are expensive. I can tell you. So, but you need them, right? What's Robert Kiyosaki? I got connected again with him the other day. Shout out to my buddy that did that for us. Appreciate you. He, wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he talks about going into business like a rugby team. You got your attorneys and your accountants and your CPAs and, your other advisors on your rugby team. And you're like, if you're up against somebody else that has a team of players like that, and you don't have a team and it's just you, you're going to get taken down. And that's just the way business is played at a high level. So hopefully many of us, after the price appreciation, are playing at that level with your family office. We're going to have another webinar for you guys, and we'll get it out to you guys. It's going to be on the 22nd of this month. It's going to be for accredited investors that want to learn about crypto in this asset class. So you could be accredited from your investments in crypto, or you could be in real estate or private equity, or you could just have $1 million net worth outside your primary residence equity and want to know about crypto, and you'll be able to attend that webinar. So that's going to come up on the 22nd of this month, and we have some other cool announcements that we're going to make alongside that. One thing I do want to mention, and this is a change. Well, I won't say it yet. Gotcha. I'm going to wait one more live before I roll out what I was about to say. We got Rob again with Bank of America is expecting the Fed to cut the rates to 3% or even lower. Wow. How impactful do you think 125 basis point cut would be? I think you'd see the V bottom, but you're also going to see the reverse carry trade unwind for sure, if that's what they do with rates here. I really like rates where they're at. I know people find it frustrating if you're borrowing money, and people have been spoiled. I'm just going to say it. People here in the US and across the globe have been spoiled after 2008 with the interest rates and free money and the ability to borrow at 3% or 4% from a bank or institution. That didn't exist for the majority of the history of banks. A healthy economy should be able to support somewhere between a 5 and 6% interest rate. If you had free markets, that's what people would be willing to lend at. And that's also what they'd be willing to take if they're going to park it in a savings account. You don't want to park your money in a savings account and earn $10 for $1 million sitting there. Nobody's going to do that, but people have, right? Because interest rates were where they were at, and they want to make sure that their assets are safe, or at least insured. Safe is a term that people put around stuff. So my point with that is, in a free market, most people would be wanting to earn 5 or 6% on their money, just leaving it in an account somewhere. And if you were lending it out at a higher risk, you're probably going to want double digits, 10, 13, 15, 18% on your money. If you're the borrower, that's not so great, because now you got to go take that money and put it to work somewhere that you're generating more than that to cover the interest. But in a free market, that's where things would be. So I'm excited. I don't know, where rates are going to go. I think if the reverse carry trade unwinds and a lot of that leverage moves out of the system, I'd be really excited if we could maintain interest rates here in the US around 5%. But I do think you're right, Rob. I do think that they're going to move lower before they get back here. And that is going to drive a lot of refinancing and people borrowing money. And the way that they've affected velocity of money in an economy in the past is the interest rate lever, right? So they got two levers. They can print money and they can move interest rates, is what the Fed does. And both of those things together, M2 money supply and the velocity of money, are what equates to inflation or deflation in an economy. They've always had a proxy. So again, there's a direct M2 money supply. They can affect that. But with interest rates, it's kind of like, we hope people go borrow money and spend it. They can't really direct you to spend it. With stable coins, they can. They could set a time frame on when something would expire by, kind of like a coupon, right? Or something else. You're like, well, I wasn't going to use this month, but I know it's going to expire, so better do it. Like that could incentivize the velocity of money to pick up in an economy and could directly affect people spending the money versus just incentivizing them to do so with interest rates. So we'll see what happens. I think it would be, again, super bullish on markets after everything collapses if they were to pivot like that. The Fed always moves too late on stuff. Omar says, can you explain private domains versus private distributed ledgers? They sound similar. In your opinion, why would institutions use Ripple's private domains versus other distributed ledgers? I know that they're expensive. Any other reason? Thanks, Legend. So these are not the same thing. Distributed ledger technology is the blockchain itself. It's not a private domain. So private domain or permission domain is what I think you're alluding to. Is your wallet address and your credentials and digital identity attached to that that's auditable on chain or verifiable that you're not a terrorist or a bad actor. And institutions have to have that. They need all of that in place in order to make sure that they can participate in things and not be transacting with a terrorist. Okay. So, and maybe you're talking about private permissioned ecosystems versus a public distributed ledger. You need both. And I had this conversation with this, Solana Foundation guy that was at SALT. He was like, yeah, they're just going to tokenize, all this stuff on Solana. And we have a partnership with R3 and da. I was like, yeah, it's a good test. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, it's got too much downtime for them to accept it in global applications. He didn't like that. And then, he wanted to trash XRP. And I said, look, I think you have your information skewed a little bit. There have been 2 times when the XRP has been paused in the last year. One was for like 10 minutes and the other one was for like 46 minutes. Solana was down for hours when it was down. However, it has had uptime in the last 2 years and it has been much more scalable. But because of the downtime in the past, institutions aren't going to use that. They need something with 100% uptime, which the XRPL has 100% uptime, no matter what other people try to say and FUD you out of over there on the internet. Because they don't actually know what's going on. Uptime and being paused are the same thing. It didn't actually crash or go down. So anyway, you need private permissioned ecosystems for people to have privacy in their transactions that they have on their own books or with trusted parties. So inside of a Corda dApp, you don't need a settlement token inside of a Corda dApp because it's all trusted parties that know one another that can transact in that environment. But when you want to transact with somebody else that may also be on a Corda dApp, you need an intermediary settlement token that's agnostic and trustless and settles real time and low cost. And so that's why the primary settlement mechanism for R3 Corda is XRP. And that's also why they were in the lawsuit with Ripple. And if you ask either one of them, both of them give you this weird answer like, we were in a lawsuit with them, we don't work with them. So anyway, they also ended up with 1.04 billion XRP as a settlement for that lawsuit back in 2015. So anyway, you need both. You need a private permissioned ecosystems for a lot of these banks and institutions to have their own ledger and smart contracts and their patents and stuff to work. But you need interoperability with other counterparties over a public distributed ledger. And so again, you kind of, the way you wordsmith this, I wasn't sure exactly what you meant, but hopefully I gave you the answer you're looking for. We got El Jefe. What's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, what's your projection on time frame to get the clarity bill passed from Congress? Senator Loomis said October is what she's gunning for. So that's what I'm going to default to. We got Fly Fishing Jeremy. What's up, man? He says, JC of XRP. I am the executor of my parents' will. They live in California. Thankful they are healthy and doing well. Is there anything that can be done to mitigate outlandish California taxes when that time comes, like, sub, and disclaimer? I appreciate you, man. Um, do they own another property outside of California? And if so, could they homestead that or make that their primary residence outside of whatever their home is there in California? You'd need to spend, at least a portion of your time at that other location. Many people, go skiing or go to another part of the country and still have their home there in California, but it's their secondary home. It's not their primary residence. And that's a way that you can do it. Also, establishing a asset protection trust in another jurisdiction and moving assets in there. You're not going to have to file reciprocity with California if you do it that way, especially if they've completed the gift out of their taxable estate into that structure. You're only going to do that most of the time for assets that are going to appreciate substantially in value. Most of the time, your home and vehicles and things that you use on a regular basis, you don't want to have to go to your distribution trustee to use those. So most of the time, those would be in a living will. I would encourage them to set up a living will and get that done there in California if they are going to continue to reside there, just to mitigate probate. If you use us, we're $400 to set up a living will. It's very simple. It's a revocable trust or a living trust. Excuse me. I keep saying living will. It's a living trust there in whatever state you reside in. A revocable living trust. You're the trustee on that. It doesn't provide you any creditor protection, but it completely negates probate, which is what causes a lot of families to fight and have issues. I don't know how many other siblings you have. You said you're the executor on their estate. I was for my father as well. Luckily, me and my brother are very amicable. And so he thought he moved his stuff into a living trust and didn't. Luckily, he did have beneficiaries on the majority of the accounts. And most of it was just in stocks and equities and some bonds, and he had a house and some vehicles. So it wasn't overly complicated, but I will say we're here almost 4 years later, and I've got one Schwab account that's got $8,000 in it that didn't have a beneficiary on it. And we just went through probate for that. So you're going to have to go through probate if it's not in a trust. So I would highly encourage you to maybe have a conversation with them. It's not expensive. And it will go a long way in your ability to be the executor on the estate and make sure that their wishes are fulfilled on who gets what. Again, if you've got multiple siblings, it's weird when money shows up, you get to see people's true colors. So that'd be my advice. Elvis, the pelvis. This reminds me of Johnny Bravo. A legend. Thank you for everything. You have strengthened my conviction even more. It's clear time is of the essence for adoption. Can you explain why? Oh, man, there's a lot of stuff that I could go into that I don't talk about here publicly. I've alluded to in the Mastermind multiple times. I'll say this. What is happening right now with digital assets and XRP in particular is way bigger than the general consensus or people's purview. Well, we'll talk about it a little bit. There are families that, some of which you're like, yeah, Rothschilds, da-da-da. They ain't got it. They're the public facing one. There's other families you've never heard of that run this whole thing. And I think the Rothschilds have some money due back to them. And this is the capital call that's kind of taking place. We'll see if that's the case or not. Probably won't ever even know. Because these families, you're not going to be able to find them. Can't look them up. If you do look them up, can't barely find pictures of them. But they own stuff that would blow you away. Anyway, so when I talk about this stuff, there's things, there's levels. And I don't know that I've seen the top level, but I've seen some pretty close. And the people that are playing there, they play for keeps. It's not it's bigger than the mob too. So anyway, We got, again, President Nick, he says, a history question is what's happening now in the financial world with XRP in a way the same happened in 2008 when the housing market crashed. Just joined Carbon One Mastermind. Awesome, brother. Glad to have you in the group. Thank you so much for joining. Give us feedback. Let me know, what we're doing good, what we're not. Discord is a little cumbersome to navigate. But again, we got thousands of hours worth of town halls and stuff there for you. Lots of stuff. And great moderators too. So, is it the same thing as 08? 08 was a blip on the radar in compared to what's about to happen with the reverse carry trade. Probably a couple $1 trillion maybe that was liquidated in 08. And everybody thought the world was ending and we were going into a depression, and they had to bring in BlackRock to repackage the debt, and they've done a really good job of that. I would say that that was like a dry run for what's about to happen. Derivatives are a big, they're good and they're bad. I'll say it that way. And derivatives are absolutely what could potentially cause this. And this is a way with digital assets that they're going to be able to shore up and restructure the debt from things that happened in 08. So, again, BlackRock's involvement here should tell you something. And I think that they are much more significantly involved than people actually believe or know about. We got Justice K. They say, did you tell people at Jackson Hole that you're a legend? I did not. Can you explain why D Media still won't mention Ripple or XRP at scale even after Ripple's win? I appreciate the super chat for the 589. I did not tell anybody that. I've only told you guys that story one time. Everybody calls me that on here now. Wild. Still don't know what to think about that. But I think the media, they show you. You see Ripple's logo, you see XRP's logo. It's up there. But the masses aren't paying attention anyway. I will say this. I think people in the XRP community in particular are much more receptive to images and symbols than the average population. And maybe even a little crazy. Like, we're a little bit crazy. I'm good with that. I'm okay being a little crazy. Crazy means you see things other people can't. That's what it means. And I'm okay with being crazy. So I think it's there if people want to see it. But most of the time, people are asleep's not the right word. Just not paying attention or ignorant is probably the best way to say it. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean like they've got focus in their own life. They got their family. They got their job. They got whatever else going on. So they're just not paying attention to what's being put out there. I think it's out there if you want to find it and understand it. It's in your face. We got K Moore. What's up, man? At 922. It's a sneaky. That's a good super chat. One of the most bullish statements I've ever heard you say is, I have had enough conversations with the chiefs that have been nice enough to come out of the teepee. I was saying that earlier. Again, the shamans or the chiefs or whatever you want to call them. Just been really blessed and grateful to have been in position to be able to have conversations with people. This person says, have you ever noticed that only crypto coin that gets criticized the most is XRP? That should say something. I agree, Nathan. I completely agree with you. Michael, what's up, man? Appreciate you on the super chat. He says, Jake, the legend, the man. Is your 1,000 XRP price prediction by the end of the year clickbait, or do you know something that we don't know? I'll be transparent. Like, our marketing team does a good job of, putting stuff out that'll catch people's eye. So if you want to call it clickbait, I do believe it though. I wouldn't come on here and have the conviction and talk about things the way that I do if I didn't. And again, the time frame I've stated is predicated on events playing out. I've been very adamant about that the whole time. There are constraints and things that need to happen for that price to even be possible. However, based on what I'm seeing in macro and where markets are at, and there being 4 months left in the year, it seems very likely to me that those catalysts will happen and we could see that price in 2025. So I guess if you want to call it clickbait, sure, but I really do believe it. I wouldn't come out here and say it if I didn't. But my marketing team does a good job of catching people's eye also. So if that's a bad thing, like, I don't know. I want to catch people's eye that may have not looked at this stuff before or heard it in a different way. And I try to explain things in a way that's simple and easy to understand for the average person. You really don't understand something unless you can explain it to like a third grader. I really believe that. And people that try to make things more complicated, I have conversations all the time with founders or other people that are running corporations or people that have ideas. And if you haven't distilled it down to something that's easily communicated to somebody else, or use, like, the use of an analogy is always great. If you can, use something that's analogous to whatever you're trying to convey and get people to have that aha, you understand it pretty well. So, and that's what I try to do. I try to provide things that are digestible and easily understandable for people when they're looking at stuff. And if it's clickbaity and it gets them to understand this, like, sue me. I've tried to help people. El Guapo, or El Guape. No, God, I butchered that. I'm not. It's been a long time since I took Spanish. Appreciate you on the super chat. They say, "Hey Jake, thanks for your time and sharing your knowledge. I'm retiring in 2030. Do you think that my bag of XRP above 10K will be able to live the rest of my life okay?" Yeah. I mean, that's a long time from now. We got 5 years until 2030. So, I don't, people talked about R3 and the DTCC and some of the stuff. There's a PowerPoint that R3 put out back in like 2017, 2018. And it showed the progression of the internet. And then on the next slide, it showed the progression of the internet of value. And it said, full adoption of blockchain and digital assets around 2025. Implementation. Full adoption didn't come till 2030. So over the next 5 years, you're going to see the tokenization of almost every asset class, in my opinion. And wherever those get tokenized and whatever has the trading volume and is moving that value is going to be a really high price. There's going to be a lot of appreciation as real estate and bonds and treasuries and equities and credit and insurance and carbon credits, air rights, water rights, token warrants, debt, private credit. There's a ton of stuff that's all going to move on chain inside smart contracts. And this person's asked if MetaMask is a good wallet. I wouldn't touch MetaMask with a 10-foot pole, personally, unless I have to. I just know way too many people have been hacked on MetaMask. Lost NFTs and ETH and Solana, a ton of stuff. So back to the question here. If you're here and you got 10,000 XRP and you're just going to hold it and you know that you're going to be good, I have a very high conviction that you are going to be able to live whatever lifestyle you want beyond 2030 with the price appreciation that we're going to see on that asset in particular and many other assets as well. We are an hour in, and I try to get through all the super chats, so I'm going to go a little bit faster and not pontificate as much or squirrel. We got Wayne. What's up, Wayne? Appreciate you on the super chat. He said, can you explain how assets will become tokenized on the XRPL and how it will add value to XRP? Will tokenization become a business of its own, and which companies will profit from it the most? This is a good question. And again, kind of just basic understanding here. So just tokenizing assets on a network doesn't actually increase the value of the token associated with the network. It's only transactional volume that actually will move the needle. So that's why stable coins are so vital, because that's what most people are going to be exchanging tokenized assets for, because you can spin that in the economy, right? We don't have a way that's, full barter system yet where you can basically pay for stuff in your stocks. I do think that that's coming, maybe 2030 or beyond. But you'll still need an intermediary asset that both people trust, that exchanges that value between the counterparties through a DEX, a la XRP, to be able to facilitate that. So that's how the value gets accrued within the token, is it's moving that value between parties that are exchanging value in transactions on the network. So the more assets are tokenized, the more markets are tokenized. That's really where the value is, when markets are tokenized, because that's volume on the network where they'll be exchanging value through the native asset to settle those between counterparties. Is that a business? For sure. For sure. Bain, again, like I mentioned before, and other large corporations are already on the forefront of that, helping businesses tokenize payments and other assets. You've got Ondo and Securitize. There are many large players that have already established themselves for the tokenization of financial products and other assets as well. You got Proppy tokenizing real estate. Any of these networks that are, public distributed ledgers, or that may even have offshoots that are private permissioned ecosystems that are interoperable, like Polymath or Avalanche. They have teams of people or corporations that are for profit that help people do whatever they're going to do. They also have a nonprofit component for people that'll, they give them grants and help them develop solutions. So yeah, I think that you're going to have all of the above. Who's going to make the most money? People that own parts of the protocol. It's just like the money now, right? Like the closer you are to the spigot, the money spigot, the more money you pick up and the more net worth you tend to have. Proximity matters, man. So if you can own these assets that are going to be used to transmit value and exchange value in these protocols, those are going to be the biggest winners. Now, if you're a treasury company, we've already seen, people going that direction. Those will be big winners. You're also going to see people that develop solutions that are the Amazons of this industry, like Ripple, that leverage a specific network or technology and build a product suite around that and implement that at scale for enterprises and institutions. Those people are going to make a ton of money. Stablecoin issuers are going to make a ton of money. Tether is the most profitable company in the world per capita. They have about 100 employees, and they've got, made $5 billion in Q1 this year. Like, that is crazy amounts of returns per employee. So, and that's why all the banks now want to issue stablecoins, because they see the value proposition, right? And obviously that market will get diluted, but you're still going to be generating yield on all those treasuries that you're not going to be passing to people using your stablecoin. So, there's going to be a lot of people that, same thing as the internet. There were a ton of people that made a lot of money in the internet in specific applications. The riches are in the niches, is what I'll say. If you know and can do something specific, you have an edge. And again, that's kind of where we're at, right? Like doing wealth management for these assets. Nobody else is doing that. We're in a blue ocean. And we've got a moat at this point. It'd be difficult to recreate what we've set up. And most people just want to partner with us because they're like, I don't want to have to deal with all that. We'll just partner with you guys. So it's been really cool to see. But again, that may be something else for you. You might have a specific expertise. And, if you understand these asset classes, I would encourage you to figure out what that is and how you can get paid in whatever asset you want to accumulate. This person says, I'm XRP'd. What's up, man? They say, hey, Jake, how far along is onboarding of Laughlin? I haven't heard anything yet, but hope to soon. P.S. I have 3 Silverados. Chevy, man. That's what I'm talking about, my man. They should be getting back to you very quickly, within 24 hours. So the only time that they don't is if you filed something in your name. Well, a couple of reasons. If your name was close to another LLC that's out there and it got filed, the IRS can hold the EIN letter. And we've had those linger on for a long time. It's not very often that that happens, but it does happen. So that may be your situation. I just reach out to our support team, just support@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and our group there can let you know what an ETA is and when they'll be getting back to you. We get a lot of messages in the mastermind about a lot of the products and services and stuff that we offer, obviously. And we talk about all that stuff there. So if that stuff's interesting to you, if you want to learn more about all the corporations that we have underneath the umbrella of Digital Ascension Group, I would again encourage you to just go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO. Get you your first month there for $2 there in social or Carbon One. And then you can come to the meetup that we have on the 19th. If you want to come to Dallas on the 19th, you'll know where it is if you're in the mastermind. And you can see and meet all the people that are in the community. I will say this. The relationships that have been formed in the mastermind are wild. I had a guy, hit me up the other day and he said, I met this guy that was like 5 miles from me that I never would have met, but he joined the mastermind and we got to talking. And now we go out to dinner every other week. And he's my best bud because, we're both in this asset class and understand this. And we feel siloed and like ostracized by the majority of people. But now I have somebody that's in close proximity that I vibe with, which is great. And we've had that happen again and again and again. We've got over 6,000 people there in the mastermind all over the world, by the way. It's not just US based. We've got people in Canada, Singapore, the Middle East and the UAE. We got people in Japan. We got people in the broader EU. We got people in the UK, a lot of people from the UK and Canada. South America in there as well, and a lot of Aussies. I know the Aussies are on here because it's middle of the day for you guys. But if you want to, meet other people in your part of the world, in your neck of the woods, and find other like-minded people, this is a great community for that as well. So again, just beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, like Mary Oscar, gets you a free month. Well, not a free month. First month's $2 there in the mastermind. Peter Sanchez, he says, my wife and I hold the majority of our XRP in both Roth IRAs. Do you offer products or strategies to maximize compounding within Roth IRAs? It's your lucky day, Peter, because we do. That actually will start here in the near future. We're finalizing some things to get that across the line. But I think that it's going to be a huge competitive advantage that we have over any of the IRA providers. Is we have a proprietary algorithm that will be running on the IRAs to compound your investments in whatever assets you want. Or if you want cash, it doesn't matter either way. We'll be able to do either. Super awesome. Looking for, nothing crazy, 8 to 12% a year is kind of what we're looking at on that. But that's in addition to just the appreciation of the assets that you're going to get. So it could do better than that. That's kind of the starting point for what we want. This person says, I'm not liking using Discord. I get it, Danny. It's not my favorite either, my man. If I had a better solution, we would be moving to it. We're looking at other stuff, but currently that is what we have. I do want to mention this too. If you get into the mastermind and you get a message from me, it's not me. Don't answer it. Block, report. It's a scam. I will not message you when you join the mastermind, just so you know. So if you get in there and multiple of me message you, it's not me. You can friend me and you can message me and I'll respond to you in the Discord, but I will never message you first. So just be aware of that. There are people out there that we're working on removing. And there's scammers across every platform. It doesn't matter. So I am real, no AI, got real hands. But be vigilant out there. If it seems weird, also, I'm never going to ask you to send your XRP anywhere. Nope. Or set up a wallet or do WhatsApp or Telegram. Don't do any of that. It's not me. It's a scam. I communicate through email, and I will. If you message me, I'll message you back on Discord. Those are the only 2 ways I communicate with people, and maybe Twitter DM. Every once in a while, I'll respond to a Twitter DM also. And my wife will message you back on other social media platforms if you message us first. So just be aware of that. There's a lot of scams out there. I've seen a lot of people lose XRP And again, that's the other reason we're going to bring in some type of insurance. It's not really insurance. It's a way to get your assets back if you're in the mastermind. So that's going to be a product that we roll out soon. And for Mr. Peter here, we do have that product going live here in September to be able to compound stuff inside your IRA. It takes a little while to get your IRA over. So if you do want to start that migration now, I would say that's probably a good time to do it. It takes at least 10 days most times to migrate an IRA over. All right, we're going to go on down, and then we're going to go back up because I've only got 40 minutes left. We got Informative Info. Interesting name. Appreciate the super chat. He says, hey, I'm in the mastermind and I live in Houston now, but have no time to go there. Just asking you if I have 3.5 thousand XRP, will I be okay? Will I have 100K a year to live? Thanks. Well, let's just do the math, my man. If you had 3.5 thousand XRP, so 3,500 XRP, and we need to make, let's say conservatively, we're making 5% on your money per year. So you get 100,000 per year. So that's actually not crazy, you know. We're going to multiply that by 20. So we'd need about $2 million making 5% a year to pay you $100,000 a year. We're going to divide that by 3,500. So you would need XRP to be at a price of $571.43 in order to accomplish that. So yeah, I think that's completely reasonable, especially if any of the catalysts that I'm talking about play out and we see, you know, 4-digit XRP, you'll have more than enough to generate that much money in the not too distant future. So do not show again. TikTok's always weird. No, you cannot co-host. We got 7 Dennis. They say, since Torres upheld the injunction, don't institutions have to buy from exchanges pushing the price? Yes, that's the whole point of the injunction, my man. And the SEC got to look like they were the good guys. They were trying to rebuke that and pull it back, but it was too late. It was the judge's fault. A little cynical on that. I think it's very orchestrated. Like they need a way to circumvent Ripple's ability to sell to institutions so that it, you know, works with Ethereum. We do get the price appreciation that we're looking for because it benefits them. Silverado Man says, after ETF approval, how soon would we see the effect? Immediate. There could be up to $5 billion in inflows the first day from, I think we have like 15 spot ETFs at this point on XRP. Fastlane with the super chat, they say, if I had to start all over and you only had 20,000 to invest in a crypto, what percentage would you allocate toward XRP versus lower price stuff? I don't want to talk about the size of my bag, but it's all in XRP. I wouldn't buy anything else, especially right now. If I had to start over though, and it was back in 2020, I would have bought more Solana. I would have bought more Quant. I would have bought more XDC. Wouldn't have bought Chainlink because I bought it at like $3 and it went to like 30. It was only a 10x. And I sold it before it ever got there because I didn't know what I was doing in crypto. I would have bought more. I'd have bought more Cardano also at 9 cents. Would have bought SWE. Would have bought Polkadot. There's a lot of stuff that I would have bought like 2020 and 21, 22, you know, if I knew what was going to happen now back then, but I didn't. And I did pretty well for myself, just investing in what I did. But yeah, I don't own anything other than XRP. So for whatever that's worth, you know, you make your own financial decisions. I haven't talked about this, but if you guys do want to structure your assets the right way, Living Legacies posted this up here. If you want to create an LLC to manage your digital assets, we do that for you. You can also work with other attorneys to do it. I would encourage you to do it. You get creditor protection if you manage it the right way and maintain the corporate veil. You want to make sure you're meeting minutes and, board resolutions and stock equity issuance and all that stuff's done, you can set yourself up as the first creditor on it, so that you have a lien against it. So if somebody tries to issue something, a charging order against the LLC, if it's filed in Wyoming or Nevada, then makes it very difficult for them to ever get any assets. You're going to get your own assets first. You're also going to have the ability to mitigate taxes if you use the assets to generate revenue or you sell some. You're going to establish bank accounts so that you're not going to get flagged or have frozen accounts in your personal name when problems happen after you've liquidated $1 million or more and move it to your personal account. The banks are going to freeze it. If it's to a corporate account, you've told them it's coming, not a problem, especially if you've had that account there for 3 to 6 months. There's just a lot of things doing this now would benefit. You're also not going to be rushing around at the last minute making rash decisions or being emotional. You're going to have a plan. Things are in place. You have an exchange where you have an account in the name of the LLC, and you're good. So just want to make sure that you're doing stuff and being proactive. Ideally, you can wait till after. And I want to say this, you can wait till after price appreciation to set up an LLC. But again, scrambling around at the last minute to do something and mitigate taxes is often how people make mistakes. So I would start things now. And again, it's not worth it unless you have at least $50,000 to $80,000 in digital assets. If your portfolio isn't that large, you're going to be better off just dollar cost averaging into crypto with whatever you would spend on the LLC. Kind of a cost of benefit there. But if you have more than that, it's a great time to do it. You can use the code if you want to work with us. It's 50 off DAG LLC, 50 OFF DAG LLC. Get you everything end to end, everything you'd ever want for an LLC to make sure you're done exactly the right way. Just the operating agreement that we provide alone, if you went to another attorney, is going to be somewhere between $1,800 and $2,500 just for them to draft that. Aside from the filing, the registered agent, the corporate veil program, certificate of good standing, all the other stuff that we provide you in just a very streamlined, efficient way. All that for $2,000 if you use that code. So, again, not everybody needs it, but we do provide it for those that do. I do, this person's pointed out, I do answer the majority of the questions over here on YouTube. We have a lot of super chats for people here on YouTube. And so if you're going to pay to ask me a question, I try to make sure I answer it. Not that I don't love you guys over here on TikTok. I do. And I try to catch one on here every once in a while. And so I apologize. This person says $10 by the end of the year. I'm happy, but many more to come by next year. Yeah, patiently waiting. That's what I'm talking about. Rumor about spot ETFs. Seems like BlackRock might be ready. We'll see. We got Todd. What's up, Todd? He says, hey, Jake, and the tea lady. Hope you had an excellent time in Kauai. We did. Thank you very much. Congrats on the shiny 100K new arrival. Yeah, we got the plaque. You guys, and that's because of y'all. There's none of this that I do or my team does or anything that we've put together is successful at all without you guys. So just want to say thank you so much for the support and following us and the trust to work with us. If we didn't have great clients and you guys as followers on the social media, I'm just a guy, like I say, right? Like I have this cool vision and we want to build all these things and provide value, but if people don't care, it doesn't really matter. So thank you to you guys for all that you do. Thank you to all the people in the mastermind. We got 6,300 people in the mastermind, which just blows me away. Largest community for XRP for sure, by far. More in real life events than any other crypto community that I'm aware of, even more than Bored Ape Yacht Club at this point, pretty sure. And we'll continue to do things there. We're always going to be adding value, doing deals. And that's kind of the idea behind it. So you might think, okay, well, mastermind, cool. Like, what am I going to get out of it? Well, you get the education and exposure to other stuff and things you learn about things that you're not going to get here. We bring in professionals when it comes to insurance and real estate and private equity and estate structuring, tax mitigation, a bunch of stuff. We have people that repair your credit, all kinds of things over there in the mastermind. But in addition to that, there's going to be a ton of deal flow on the other side of price appreciation. People are going to be investing in companies, syndicating deals to buy companies together, investing in other real estate or deals together, because you're going to have the capital and the means and the access to do it if you're there in the community. And the price of the community is going to go way, way up. It's going to be a minimum of $1,000 a month on the other side of price appreciation. Once we see a $10 XRP, we are locking it down. Nobody will be allowed into the mastermind for 30 days. And then on the other side of that, there's going to be an extremely stringent vetting process and a much higher price tag for people to participate in that ecosystem, in that environment. So if you want to make sure that your spot is there, now is the time to plant your flag and get into the mastermind before price appreciation happens, because it's going to be much more stringent on the other side. We're going to be very particular about who we let in, because we want high value people in that community. Everybody there that you know now is high value in my opinion. I'm super proud of the culture that's been built there. But on the other side of price appreciation, we're going to be very protective of that group. So if you want to lock it in, again, you just go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you the first month for $2 to try it out. We are at an hour and a half. I'm gonna hang out for another 30 minutes here, and then we'll lock it down tonight. We got RG Darnell says, "Hey Jake," tells me the exact amount of XRP that he has. I'm 75. Darnell, don't tell people how much you have, my man, especially on a public forum. He says, "Should I do an LLC? Does your company handle this low amount of XRP?" Yeah, we do, and that's not a low amount of XRP. I mean, like I talked about whales earlier, but we work with people that have, again, if you're somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000 in portfolio value, which you absolutely would be, that's the time when you would want to set up the LLC and start establishing things. That's going to give you a good time horizon to season in bank accounts and have that creditor protection and do all that stuff. And it's a meaningful enough amount that like having creditor protection would benefit you. If you got $5,000 and you got to pay $2,000 to protect it, like that doesn't make any sense, you know. But if you got 50 or 80 grand and you're going to pay a couple $1,000 to protect it, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, we would love to work with you, sir. And you just go to digitalfamilyoffice.io. That's digitalfamilyoffice.io and use the code beyond, or sorry, the code is 50OFF, 50 OFF DAG LLC. And it is under the services tab. You just go to LLC formation and they'll hold your hand, walk you through it, make sure everything's taken care of for you. Justin Kincaid, he says, "Glad you're back. Y'all need to plan a mastermind event in Atlanta. I have Uncle Danny." What's up, man? Yeah. Yeah, I would love to play. I didn't get to play there in Hawaii. I was threatening to, but I didn't bring my clubs. I think I might get into like long drive. I think that's going to be my new thing here in the near future. My wife got me $300 for my birthday to the PGA Superstore, and I think I'm going to go get Daddy's going to go get him a new driver, and see how far we can hit it. I'm watching these guys on Instagram knock it out there like 460 and 500, and I've hit it that far before. It's not consistent. I've hit it that far like 4 times ever. The last long drive contest, I was at a scramble and hit it 460. I was like 75 yards ahead of the person that was behind me. So I can hit it a long way, but I need to practice. So that may be my new thing. So if I come play in Atlanta, we'll try to bomb a couple of them out there. We'll do a shamble or something. We got this individual, because I'm going to butcher their name. Thank you for the super chat. They say, "Greetings, Mr. Claver. I've read where XRP will be considered an ESDR by the IMF. According to their documents, SDRs cannot be owned by individuals. What does that mean for XRP holders?" That's not accurate. Not that what you said is not accurate. XRP will not be an ESDR. So the special drawing right is a basket of currencies that's weighted by GDP of 6 different nations. And it provides liquidity in certain circumstances to those nations when they need that liquidity for problems that they're having from the IMF. they borrow it. The ESDR is obviously a digital version of that. The original concept was called the Bancor token or coin. And that was proposed by John Maynard Keynes in 1944 at Bretton Woods. Obviously, that didn't end up winning out. The dollar has held, the global reserve currency status for the last 70 plus years because in Bretton Woods we had all the gold and we were the largest creditor nation, and so we kind of had the cards and made that happen. But I do think we're going to move to that system that you're talking about. There's also a paper that the IMF put out in 2014 that refers to an exchange rate peg, and they abbreviate that with XRP. At the time, Ripple had XRP branded as Ripples, and they rebranded Ripples to XRP. It was originally XNS when it was originally minted by OpenCoin, and then changed to Ripples, and then was changed to XRP in 2014 after that white paper was issued by the IMF referring to an exchange rate peg. So that is what I believe XRP will be. It'll be the exchange rate peg, global denomination for currency, and the DEX in which all trade basically moves through at a global scale over the long term. The ESDR would be traded through XRP. And XRP may end up being a currency that sits in that basket, but it would have to be adopted by a nation. There's been discussions about Liechtenstein or Lithuania, either one of those adopting XRP as its national currency. And then in that circumstance, it could sit in the basket of the ESDR. But that's not currently what happens today. There's 6 different currencies that are weighted by GDP that make up the ESDR or the SDR or special drawing right. So whoever put that out, again, there's a lot of people that they just say stuff for clicks, and they aren't quite as educated on things, and they pontificate and say, what if this, what if that? But again, I've just had too many conversations to know that that's not going to be the case. So, and will be a tier 1 asset though, which would be great. And individuals can absolutely own it. And that's also why we set up corporations for people, just so you're aware, is I do anticipate a day where there's a potential that they don't necessarily want individuals owning XRP, but if it's owned by a corporation and managed by a corporation, there's going to be lots of other those that do that. And so it'll be difficult for them to tell you, you can't do that too. Teresa has a go. Says, love you. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for all the support on Monday and Wednesday nights. I enjoy doing these. I appreciate you guys being here and taking time out away from your family to watch them. Whether you're listening to it now or you listen to it later, hopefully this gives you value. I don't ever say this enough on these, but if you do find value in these, please like, subscribe, share the channel with other people you think would like it. It does help the algorithm and help us grow. And we're at 113,000 subscribers on YouTube. Ton of people over here on TikTok, and growing on X as well. So getting the word out there, trying to help people. And if you think this is helpful, please share it. David, Mr. Baker, appreciate you for the 589 super chat, sir. I don't know if you guys saw the power, but because you put the 589, I'm going to mention it. It's $1.3 billion for the winner of the Powerball tonight. And guess what the cash value option is? Yeah, you got it. It's $589 million if you take the cash value option on the Powerball tonight. So I hope one of you guys watching wins it. Hope you guys got some tickets. But very interesting to me that is the Powerball number. I don't know. We'll see if 589 has anything to do with anything. He says, with the gift take going down in 2026, should this be our first move before generating gift tax income and borrowing against it? So for those that may not be familiar, right now your lifetime gift tax threshold here in the US is 13.99 million per individual. It's the highest that it's ever been. So if you wanted to gift something out of your taxable estate before your death, that's the limit that you can do before it's a 40% tax on anything above that. And same thing at your death. If you have an estate worth $100 million, the first 28 million of that between you and your spouse, close to 28 million, be 27.98 million. would go to your children or your beneficiaries with no tax implications. They'd get the step up in basis. And then anything above that amount that you gifted would end up being taxed at 40%. So not great. So you want to leverage that to the best of your ability. Ideally, you're keeping about $28 million worth of assets in your personal name or in something associated with you, like an LLC or your living trust at any given time. Because upon your death, when those assets move to your beneficiaries, they will get the step up in basis and they can choose to liquidate those with no tax implications. I'm not trying to have that happen. I want to saddle my son and our descendants with tax implications. I want them to know that this is going to suck if they sell these assets. And so I would gift mine sooner than later. Just the way that I've thought about it. That way it locks in that basis inside the trust or whatever vehicle you want to move it into. And that incentivizes, one, it's out of your taxable estate and can grow there. And then in addition to that, you're not going to have to worry about it later on and try to like finagle things and move stuff in and out of your estate and do other stuff to keep that 28 million mark in your personal name. But again, or inside your taxable estate, not necessarily your personal name. So anyway, it's up to you. Depends on if you want to saddle your kids with tax implications or not. Or it could be your nieces or nephews or whoever you're giving the assets to, David. I would work with your tax attorney or your estate planner to make those decisions. And if you need those, you can reach out to us at Digital Ascension Group, and we're happy to provide those professionals for you. We got Brando. They say, you say to get XRP off of exchanges and put on a cold wallet like Tangem. If XRP goes parabolic, wouldn't we have to move it on to an exchange to sell? Yes. Or, depending on what you plan on doing with it or who you know, you could borrow against it. I don't know if you saw Aave's announcement and their ability to borrow using ROUSD the other day, but that was pretty cool. Aave is becoming a big deal. Aave and Compound are smart contracts that are EVM based. I think that they will move over to the EVM sidechain on the XRPL, and you could potentially use the smart contract to borrow against your XRP from your Tangem or your Zaman or one of these other wallets. Might have some interoperability with that. Or you could work with Digital Wealth Partners, which is our wealth management group, and we already have ways to leverage or borrow against your XRP. And you can hold it inside of institutional custody there and sell it at any time and still have all of your cake and eat it too, as far as custody and security and insurance and all of that, and access to liquidity when you need it. So we try to marry everything in-house. But, again, to your point, we do have minimums. So you need at least 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000 in total portfolio value to work with Digital Wealth Partners. And you do need those assets held in an LLC or corporation. So, but for most people, especially if they do have less than that amount currently, what you mentioned here is correct. We are about 15 minutes from wrapping up here, but I think I've got through the majority of the super chats. If I miss your super chat, I am sorry. And I would like it if you would join the mastermind, and you can DM me and I will answer it. I promise I will. But again, do not interact with anybody that messages you. It's not me. It's a scam. Please report them. Message me and I will message you back there in the Discord and the mastermind. Group 1, Gavin, he says, would you be kind enough to give my mate Johnny Mac a shout out down in Safety Bay? What's up, Johnny Mac? Good. Group 1 Gavin's always a supporter. Appreciate any friend of Gavin's a friend of mine. He says he's nursing a knee operation and his awesome deep dive on XRP. Love your content. Go Team Claver. Appreciate you, man. Well, wishing you a speedy recovery, Johnny Mac. Hopefully the knee heals up good. A lot of people tell me like knee or shoulder, you should get them both done at the same time because the pain sucks and the rehabilitation sucks so much that you don't want to do the other one. I hope that's not the case for you. I hope that your other knee is awesome and you just needed this one replaced and you'll be good to go, my man. Be praying for you. We got Trey Cause. They say, thank you for being a genuine dude. That's all. Thank you, man. Appreciate the super chat. Don't know any other way to be. It's just me. If you meet me in public, I'm the same person that I am on here, which I guess maybe isn't normal, but I'm okay with that. Group one, Gavin again. He says, legend, Levi the legend. Hey man, don't leave my middle name out of this. Pleasure having you back on the live, Nate. I feel many will be looking to shake your hand in the near future as you are vindicated with your convictions. Big love. Appreciate that. Look, man, it's not about being right for me on the prices and the time frame and all that. Cool if I am. I really want to create products and solutions and have those in place for people so that they have options when this stuff appreciates. That's been my goal the whole time, and I've just been running full steam. So is my team, full steam ahead, trying to get all this in place to make sure that you guys have somewhere that you can go and you have options where, you know, if we hadn't done this, the banks are still 12 or 18 months away from creating what we have. And most people, if it happens in that time frame, which I think it will, would just have to sell, right? They wouldn't have the ability to borrow against it. They wouldn't have a way to generate returns on it safely. You know, there's some options out there in the market that we'll see how they end up working out. I know ours are good. We're audited by the SEC and FINRA. Like, it has to be good. There's not an option. Otherwise, I go to jail, and so does everybody else that works here because we're onshore. So if you want the warm and fuzzy that provides, just go over to digitalwealthpartners.net and fill out the contact us form. We got Derek. He says, hey, Legion. Hey, Legion. What should we expect from our advisor? My one question was, do you listen to Jake? They listen to me, and this is probably where I should put in this disclaimer. Anything said here are my opinions. They are not the opinion of the firm or the umbrella company, either Digital Wealth Partners or Digital Ascension Group. I have a strong sway in things, but at the end of the day, our advisors are fiduciaries. Their job is to make sure that they're mitigating risk for you and advising you appropriately based on your risk tolerance, time horizon, and other factors. So they're not always going to tell you throw everything in XRP, and I wouldn't expect them to. I don't think that that's right for most people. So they're there to advise you and give you good advice and be a steward and help you steward your capital. So yeah, that's what you can expect. Quarterly meetings, rebalancing, showing you all the new products and solutions that we're bringing to market to be able to generate value for you and your family and help you protect and grow your wealth over the next 100 years, hopefully. Shermanator, what's up, man? He says, legend. Thank you for getting the limit order set up. Not financial advice, but if you needed to take some profits, where would you set your limit orders on XRP? And please make a short how-to use Discord video. We have a how-to use Discord video. If you'll watch the video that you got when you signed up for the Mastermind, you get an email, and it'll tell you how to sign up for the Discord. There's a whole video that Max put together in that email that tells you how to navigate it and what to do. And then you can also lean on Mike, Living Legacy, or some of the other moderators there in the group to help you out. And again, if that sounds cool to you, if you want to be part of the Mastermind, appreciate you, Shermanator, for being in there. You just use the code right here. It is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you the first month for $2 there in the Mastermind. And again, we're going to be locking people out. We're locking it down for 30 days after price appreciation. After XRP is over $10, cutting it off. So if you want to lock in your spot, now is the time to do it. We're going to take 2 more super chats, and then we're going to wrap it up for tonight. We got Skylar. They say, does the reverse carry trade affect HBAR as it affects XRP? What would the price prediction look like with the ETFs by the end of the year? It does not affect it the same way. So XRP will be providing back-end settlement of the stock market. HBAR is not. You also only have like 2 ETFs filed for HBAR. We actually talked about that earlier today also with one of the other counterparties in the XDC deal. So we might be involved in some of those ETFs. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, price prediction by the end of the year, I have no clue. I think that there is going to be some demand for HBAR, but nowhere near as much as XRP in the time frame you've mentioned. Just my personal opinion. I could be way off base. I hope people make millions of dollars and I miss out on HBAR, even though it's my second favorite. Like, if I was going to own something else besides hash, HBAR. One last time here for the LLC. Again, just in case you didn't get it and you're over here on YouTube, you can use the code 50OFF 50OFF DAG LLC if your assets are somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000 in total portfolio value. Would highly, highly, highly encourage you to go ahead and get that process going. It doesn't have to be with us. You're going to spend more somewhere else, but it doesn't have to be with us. We've done 3,500 of these at this point, more than anybody else in the world. Setting them up correctly, make sure people are protected, managing their assets the right way. And again, if you use that code 50OFF DAG LLC, it's everything $2,000 end to end. Corporate veil, EIN, articles of organization, certificate of good standing, the operating agreement, which is the most expensive piece if you had it drafted by an attorney. Tons of other benefits and education around that as well. Maintaining the meeting minutes and board resolutions and everything else that you need to do to make sure that you have a great creditor protection around your assets from day one. All right, where's the last super chat? Who's got it? We're going to find it here. And again, if I missed your super chat, because I did scroll all the way to the bottom earlier and then go up, just again, follow, join the mastermind and then message me over there in Discord and I will make sure I knock it out. Then I got one here from my wife that she wanted me to do, and I'll talk about one other thing before we wrap up. Jayhawk Nation. Hey, Rockhawk J. What is it? Rockhawk Jayhawk? Rock Chalk Jayhawk. There we go. That's Brad's alma mater. He said, for people in the 3 to 5% rich list that aren't in a rush and can wait 5 to 6 years before taking profits, any advice or first step recommendation once XRP reaches $100? Set up an asset protection trust. Yeah. If you're in that echelon and you have $100 XRP, would highly recommend setting up an asset protection trust. You can afford the 15 grand to get it done and make sure that you have really good creditor protection, the best in the world. Well, the best in the world would be the Cook Islands, but the best in the US is who we work with to, establish that. Make sure you have a distribution trustee and everything structured the right way to help you mitigate taxes and protect your assets in the best way possible as they continue to grow over that time frame that you mentioned. You'll be able to borrow against them. You'd be able to structure life insurance policies. There's tons of stuff and benefits to structuring a trust at that amount of value that you've mentioned there. So that would be my recommendation. Again, you can work with us. We get everything end to end. We have the best professionals in the world working on this stuff with us. We have global contacts in Dubai, in Singapore, in Ireland, in Portugal, in Nevis, Cook Islands, you name it, Australia, Canada. We have partnerships all over the world with the best professionals to provide these services, but especially here in the US. So that'd be my 2 cents on next move after that happens. All right, we got one more super chat that I missed here, and I think we're gonna grab it. We got Green 19. They say, Big Jake, I believe you have mentioned products for non-accredited investors possibly coming down the pipeline. Any updates you can share there? Don't have anything yet, my man. I apologize. We are aggressively moving toward that. The IRA product will be available to anybody if you want to trade and compound your assets inside of your account there with Digital Wealth Partners. So again, if you're over 100,000 XRP or have at least $500,000 in total portfolio value, you can be a client and get access to those. And those would be for non-accredited people inside your Roth as well, or your traditional 401k or IRA. All right. My wife prints these out for me if I miss them. This person says, social member of the Mastermind for 2 years following your husband on YouTube. I initially reached out via email. Jake always recommends receiving a reply asking for $300 to get my 10-minute question answered. They said that covers 30 minutes. I'm definitely overdue to get this done. So I had an initial consult with Anderson Advisors to try to clear up some of the questions I had before paying. I don't want to buy a car instead of a boat Very fair. Anderson advised me that having a registered agent file for Wyoming LLC without an RA actually having an office in Wyoming leaves you open to lawsuits. It's not true. In their agreement, they state that they actually lease me an office. This is them just trying to sell you something within their office as the only way that a virtual office not effective and leaves my corporate veil open to piercing. Trying to sell you something. Can you please ask Jake to clarify this one on his lives that I never miss to give me some peace of mind? They're a very reputable real estate asset protection firm. But based on what Jake said over the years, what they offered, it seems as though the operating agreement will have holes because these are digital assets. Exactly correct. I would really prefer to give my business to DAG to support Jake and the fam, but need this registered agent having physical address of my corporate veil is not secure. Question answered. So again, this is why we work with Laughlin Associates as our paralegal firm, because they understand all this and make sure that your corporate veil is maintained and cannot be penetrated. And they will do everything that Anderson Advisors does for digital assets that they do for real estate to make sure you're buttoned up and you're not going to have any issues. And we don't require a virtual office there, and we don't have to lease you a space or upsell you on something that you don't need. Like you said, buying a boat, not a car. Jake always talks about 8 out of 10 LLCs are wrong to begin with. Unfortunately, that is the case. And I cannot afford to risk my assets down the road because of an address. They also advised me getting bank accounts without an actual lease in Wyoming with reputable institutions is much harder. That's not true. The guys over at Anderson are good people. I've watched a lot of their content. They do a lot of stuff around real estate. Look, you know, if you wanted to sell somebody something, that sounds really good. But the truth is you don't need it. That's just them trying to upsell people on an additional service, which, hey, candidly, like what I've done is I've always tried to include everything that you would possibly need in the LLC. And we have raised the price over time just as we've added additional benefits, but that's because our costs have increased on it. When we first started doing the LLC, we actually outsourced it to another attorney that didn't do a great job. They were good enough. And then we brought it in-house and did the same thing for half the price. And then we continued to add services and benefits over time to the LLC in order to get it to the 2,000. And now you get everything end-to-end that you could possibly need, including the corporate veil protection, without an additional lease on an office that you don't need. So it's up to you. Again, reputable firm. I like those guys, but they do not work with digital assets. They work with real estate, and it sounds like they're trying to sell something else to people that they may not necessarily need. Just my 2 cents. And then the other thing that my wife mentioned is we've had a lot of people that have children with disabilities that have reached out, and I hate that, and I'm praying for people. But it is a reality that you may have a child that's on SSI. They cannot have a certain amount of income or they lose those benefits, and it becomes very difficult and costly to provide those over their lifetime. So ideally, you're going to set up a certain type of trust where, you know, they have an executor or a trustee that basically doles stuff out as needed, and that income that's produced is inside the trust and segregated from their personal income. You want to make sure that if you do have a dependent or a child that's that way, that you are working with a competent estate planner or tax attorney to make sure that you're mitigating those risks and setting those things up the right way to make sure that your child does maintain that SSI benefit over their lifetime. So again, not a fun topic, but this is a reality, and we want to make sure that those people know what they're doing and have the right advisors around them to make sure that that stuff's taken care of so that their kids are taken care of even after they pass away. So those are the two that I had that I wanted to finish on tonight. Again, would love to see you guys in the mastermind. We are going to lock it down, like I said, over a $10 XRP, which I don't think is too far into the future, in the mastermind for 30 days. It's going to be a very high par to get into the mastermind after that point. And, you know, we're going to be vetting people, and it's going to be $1,000 a month minimum for people to participate in the mastermind on the other side of price appreciation. If you want to lock it in today, all the prices that are today, you lock in, you're grandfathered in if you get in now. So if you just pay $2, you know, Social's $25 a month. The Carbon one's $100 a month. Carbon 2's $250 a month. You could be Carbon 2 and be paying 1/4 of what other people will be paying for just the minimum on the other side of price appreciation. And again, we want very high caliber individuals there on the other side of price appreciation, and that's why upstanding people that are not there to cheat or steal or take from other people are going to be very protective of people in the community on the other side of price appreciation. So if that sounds cool to you, if you want to be part of something that I think is just wildly beyond any of my expectations of when we started it, it's incredible to see the growth and the culture and all the wonderful people that we have there. And again, that's at beyondbroke.com. Use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month. Well, not a free month, but first month for $2 there in the group for Social or Carbon 1. In addition to that, if you do need the LLC, again, that code one last time is 50 off 50OFF DAG LLC. Gets you everything end to end for your digital asset LLC to manage your digital assets. It's a holding company that manages alternative investments, that has a specialization in digital assets. It's structured that way for a reason. It's not a trading LLC, which is a lot of what most other attorneys will try to set up for you. You don't get the benefit of long-term capital gains if it's structured that way. You also want to set it up as a single member LLC or a family limited partnership. That way you don't have any tax implications when moving the assets into the corporation. We have all of this down to a science. It's done the exact right way to mitigate taxes and set you up in the best position possible prior to price appreciation. And then last but not least, if you do want to work with digital wealth partners and get access to yield and returns on your XRP, all you got to do is go to digitalwealthpartners.net and use the contact us form. Again, you need an LLC or a trust or an IRA, some wrapper around your digital assets in order to participate with the wealth management firm. And they do need to be worth, as an aggregate total, more than $500,000, or if you have at least 100,000 XRP, we would love to work with you. So with that, hope you guys have a wonderful week, a wonderful night. Thank you for hanging out with me on a Wednesday, and we'll see you guys on the next one.